Right now, somewhere in the world, someone is doing the one thing every human who has ever lived has had to do. You did it today. So did every king, every emperor, every caveman who ever walked the earth. And for almost all of human history, there was no toilet, no plumbing, no toilet paper. So how did they handle it? The answer is grosser, stranger, and far more important than you would ever think. For most of our existence, the answer was beautifully simple. You walked away from camp, did your business on open ground, and walked back. That was it. When you live in a small group that moves every few weeks, following herds and seasons, your waste isn't a problem. You leave it behind. The land absorbs it. By the time it could ever become dangerous, you're already miles away. For tens of thousands of years, this is how humans lived. No bathrooms, because none were needed. But that still leaves one very personal question. What did they actually use to clean up? And the honest answer is, whatever was within reach. Water, if a river or lake was nearby, is still the most common method on Earth today. Leaves, moss, grass, smooth stones, sticks. In colder places, a handful of snow. Some used animal fur, or shells, or their bare left hand, and a splash of water. Which is exactly why, in many cultures, the left hand is still considered unclean to this day. Then it got more creative. The ancient Greeks used pessoi, small, rounded pieces of broken pottery. Archaeologists have dug them up, worn smooth from use. Some even had the names of enemies scratched onto them first, so you could quite literally wipe with your rival's name. The Romans had something worse. In their public toilets, long rows of stone seats sat side by side with no dividers and no privacy, and the shared cleaning tool was a sea sponge on the end of a stick, rinsed in a channel of running water and passed down to the next person. Dozens of strangers. One sponge. In parts of Asia, people used thin scraping sticks of bamboo or wood. Soft toilet paper as you know it wouldn't become common across most of the world until the 20th century. And it didn't get better for a very long time. In medieval Europe, most people used a chamber pot, a simple bowl kept under the bed, and emptied it however was easiest. Often that meant flinging the contents straight out the nearest window into the street below, sometimes with a warning shout of "Gardez-le," from the French for "watch out for the water." Castles had it slightly fancier. A small room called a garderobe jutted out over the outer wall, and everything simply dropped down the side and into the moat. The moat that was supposed to protect the castle also doubled as its toilet. But here's the thing almost nobody realizes. The wiping was never the real problem. It was uncomfortable. It was unhygienic. But on its own, it didn't kill anyone. What killed people was something they couldn't see. And it had nothing to do with what touched their skin. It had to do with where all of that waste ended up, and this is where the story turns dark. Because the moment humans stopped wandering, everything changed. Around 12,000 years ago, we settled down. We started farming. We built villages, then towns, then cities. We stopped moving away from our waste. And for the first time in history, our waste stayed exactly where we lived. It piled up in pits. It soaked into the ground. It washed into the same rivers and wells we drank from. And human waste, it turns out, is one of the most efficient disease delivery systems on the planet. A single gram of it can carry millions of bacteria, thousands of parasites, and countless viruses. Cholera, dysentery, typhoid, worms. All of them spread the same way, out of one person's body and into another person's mouth. Through contaminated water and food. In a small, moving band of foragers, this almost never happened. In a crowded city built on top of its own sewage, it happened constantly. So settling down didn't just hand us farms and cities and civilization, it also handed us a quiet, invisible epidemic that would haunt us for thousands of years. One we didn't even understand. To put it bluntly, for most of recorded history, your own neighborhood was slowly trying to poison you, and the poison was invisible. Children paid the highest price. In some of the worst, fast-growing cities, as many as a third of all babies never survived their first year. Entire families drank the very thing that was killing them, generation after generation, with no idea what they were doing wrong. Medieval cities were practically drowning in it. People dumped waste straight into the streets, where it ran in open gutters past markets and homes. London's River Thames became such an open sewer that in 1858 the stench got so unbearable it actually shut down Parliament. And the whole time, wave after wave of disease tore through the population, and nobody knew why. They blamed bad air. They blamed sin. They blamed everything except the truth, which was sitting in their drinking water the entire time. It wasn't until 1854 that a London doctor named John Snow finally proved it. During a brutal cholera outbreak, he mapped out every single death and traced them all back to one thing: a single public water pump on Broad Street, contaminated by a leaking cesspit just a few feet away. He removed the pump's handle so no one could use it. The outbreak died down. For the first time, someone had shown that the killer wasn't floating in the air. It was in the water, and it had gotten there the same way it always had, through human waste. What happened next changed the world. Cities began building real sewer systems, finally separating the water. People drank from the water that carried their waste away. Flushing toilets spread. Clean water arrived. And the effect was staggering. Life expectancy in the developed world roughly doubled. Not mainly because of surgery or wonder drugs, but because we finally figured out where to put our poop. When one major medical journal asked thousands of doctors to name the single greatest medical advance of the last century and a half, the winner wasn't antibiotics, or anesthesia, or vaccines. It was sanitation. The humble toilet has quietly saved more human lives than almost any invention in history. So, the next time you walk into a bathroom, lock the door, and do the most ordinary thing in the world, think for a second about what you're really standing in the middle of. For 99% of human history, this exact moment was either a quick walk into the bushes or a slow, invisible threat to everyone you lived beside. The leaves, the pottery shards, the shared Roman sponge, those were never the real story. The real story is that learning where to put our own waste was one of the quiet turning points of our entire species. It didn't get statues. It didn't get songs. It just got built, pipe by pipe, beneath the cities we live in. And it's still down there right now, working silently under your feet. One of the biggest reasons you've lived long enough to sit here and wonder how anyone ever managed without it.